welcome back to Vinny's Aquatics. We have a very special guest today, my friend Mike from Green Solutions in Rochester, New York. And we're just going to get right into this. As you can see, that's their website. Joe? Well, it says Mike on the thing, doesn't it? Okay. I get it. It is Facebook. Yeah, we'll get the yes. I'll be honest. One of the only decent people I've met on Facebook in the last year. Because those fish groups are brutal. Those people are brutal. I'm going to make a video about that because some of the comments they tell people are just like, whoa, you know?
Uh-huh.
It's like,
why I want to do this.
Are we supposed to teach people how to get into the hobby? Like, isn't that what we're supposed to do? No, they're just like, take the fish back. Don't ever buy an aquarium again. Yeah. Go stand out in your backyard in the rain. They're just mean people.
I tell people, pick somebody that seems like they're knowledgeable and stick with them. Because at least if they're wrong, like, you know, you're going in a certain direction instead of in every direction. Yeah. Too many things is just as bad as doing nothing.
You can get so much advice. It's almost overload. It's almost overload. So we met, I guess it was the OFR group on there.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of good resources on YouTube. There's a lot of good fish keepers and animal keepers, and because I also follow some of the reptile guys and anything that's the guys with the farms in the back where they have everything. It's especially the rescues, especially people that do rescue. Like my good friend Mike from Florida Fish Rescue. He's got his big 3,000 gallons down there, and he does a lot of rescues, which is and he got into it with OFR a little bit because he's not established enough, I guess, for them, but I think he's doing a good job down there because in Florida, there's my God, just the invasive species alone in Florida is ridiculous now. It's like I'm gonna throw an alligator into the pond. I'm gonna throw arowanas into the pond.
Yeah, and I got a degree in environmental horticulture, and all I can say is if you're doing good things, and any amount of them is in the right direction. You can't expect everything of everybody. People aren't necessarily the most knowledgeable, and people just of themselves are impulsive. It's like the whole buying fish at a store thing. Should the consumer know about the fish? Yes, but humans are impulsive. I bought this dude with minimal knowledge, but I also have a college degree, so I know how to do research, real research, looking at websites that have facts in them, not a bunch of people having perceptions and trying to go off that. .gov sites, .edu sites are out there. Those are real facts. You can trust them.
No.
.com, come on.
I know. I want somebody that's just gonna just tell me something, and that's it. I'm just gonna blindly follow. Who needs water changes? This guy says we don't.
Yeah. And
all right. How did you get? Let's start early. How did you get into the animal thing? How old were you? What were you like as a kid? So were you always into animals?
Yeah, the perfect example of me is me when I'm like 5 years old. I have a pair of overalls on, and I have a largemouth bass that I could probably fit my hand in his mouth. And I definitely am trying to kind of stick my finger in his mouth to get his tongue. I'm a little bit more humane at this point in time, but I was always just interested in, especially fish. My grandfather had fish. I actually have the tank that my grandfather had when I was a kid. I'm 42. Ooh. As well as the one my mother had. I have both of those tanks in my house with water in them with fish in them. You figure I'm 42 years old, so there's some kind of old tanks. Same filter. One of the filters is from back then too. You
would be surprised if you keep a tank wet, how long it'll last. Like I bought a tank 25 years ago. 30 years ago now at a Petland discount of 55. Still perfect condition. Not a problem with it. And it's even got the same T5 bulbs in it. The bulbs haven't even gone out in the hood on top. Yeah. It's like, look, we made stuff a lot better back then too. Let's be honest.
For sure. I got 100 gallon. And the only thing that I do is, I don't know, it's just me. I hate clear acrylic. I can do excellent clear silicone. I can do excellent tank work on resealing my own tanks with the clear, but black just looks good to me, and I hate the faux brown tops. So I try to paint them or something to make it look better. I don't know. The black just looks more sleek. I think it goes better. But, everybody has their own preferences. But I don't know what it is about the white silicone, but that's really all I've ever had to do with a lot of the tanks that we have here is just re-silicone them because somebody at some point in time, they don't leak, but somebody at some point in time tried to silicone them and had no idea what they were doing, you know?
Oh, I love
the
that.
smear across it.
And they silicone over the old silicone, like that's going to work.
Yeah.
And then they wonder why they get a pinhole leak in it. Acrylic tanks, for a bigger tank, sometimes it's easier, but it's not glass. They're too easy to scratch. And glass is, over time, nothing happens to it. Acrylic, eventually, it's an oil product. It's going to dry out a little bit. It's going to bow a little bit.
Yeah.
It's going to, So I can make acrylic tanks here at work because of the way I'm set up. We do a lot. I'm the manager of a sign company, so we have the CAD machine. I can cut the panels, and we have all the glues. And when I do acrylic tanks, I use 2 glues. They have a slow set glue, which most people don't know about. They only know that fast dry one. The slow set is more like a silicone. So you put it on the seams, and when you butt it together, then you go back in with the other one.
Gotcha.
But the silicone is an art form to be able to get it in there nice. Especially the corners and all that. It's
absolutely.
But it's a lot of fun. Look, big tanks, the way they cost nowadays, right out of the store, when you can find somebody that just wants to, I got a 180, just get it out of my house. You know, they're at that point.
So I started out actually when I was younger collecting tanks and taking panels out. And then, having the tanks. A lot of times when I was younger, it was reptiles as well. I lived in Springwater. My parents moved to the country when I was young. So, reptiles, snakes, toads, there was a pond across the street. So, that's kind of where everything stemmed from. And as you were mentioning, I kind of had a problem with authority when I was a little bit younger. So again, living in the middle of nowhere, sometimes going and finding frogs and chilling out with them was what I was doing that day, when I was a kid. And it always came down to husbandry too, though. I mean, it wasn't like I was a little kid squishing stuff or anything. Yeah. Everything I had was alive and I let it back out, after a couple of days. But when I got older, when I graduated high school, go ahead.
Those are the kids you got to watch out about, though. The ones because they grow up to be serial killers. The ones that go out and mess with the animals. It's a known fact. Like when I was a kid and I'd see another kid doing something to an animal, it's like all the other kids. We'd want to go kick his ass. Leave it alone. What's wrong with you? You mental patient. Oh, I'm going to tie a bottle rocket to a lizard. No, you're not. What are you doing?
No, there definitely. Growing up, there were those kinds of people, and I tell my wife, having a background in psychology as well at school, there's a few people that I kind of pick out where I'm like, if that went the wrong way, they totally would have been a serial killer.
Oh yeah, for the grace of
they
God,
feed everybody their fish. So
go ahead.
We have other animals here besides the reptiles and the fish, though. Out back, we do have chickens, ducks, turkeys, and the newest was 2 emu.
Hold on. Let's start out with the fish.
Okay.
How many tanks do you have? And I saw that you're building a tank that you needed a pool ladder to get out of.
Yeah.
That I'm really curious about.
All right. So I'll tell you, to put it simple, right in the living room right now, there's a 125, a 160, 100, 55, 55, 75, 30, 55 behind me, and a 55 here. So downstairs, there's 2 55s, a stack of 330s, a 500-gallon pond. So that's where I'm at right now, and we've been in our soft opening. So the 125 and a few of the 55s are my personal fish, but everything else added on. I mean, we've been rescuing at least multiple fish a week. When I started to think of the idea of we're using these fish to grow vegetables eventually that we want to give to poor people in the community. Hence why we have all the birds, because the eggs, and meat. Yeah. And so with having the fish and doing the rescue, I'm like, Big Rich can't do it all himself. And there's nothing in New York. I'm like, it's lame. New York needs, seriously, it's us in California usually. And Ohio's trumping us. Let me get this up.
Well, I've been look. All right. I have an arowana. Eventually, I'm pretty soon. I'm going to need to rehome, or I'm going to have to get a bigger tank. The problem is my fish room's in my basement, and there's only so big of a tank I can get down around the corner. So, and I've been looking around for somebody local, like they will take it or whatever. But you get offers from people. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. He's a beautiful fish. I actually rescued him from some friends of mine. And
I'll tell you, you know how I get rescues?
Now he's.
We're not for everybody. I'm like black licorice. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. I'm not for everybody. But the first thing and the reason I usually get rescues is on those lists, I just post a blank thing about who we are and what we do. We're looking to not rehome these fish that we're collecting now. We're looking to collect the top 5. So I have Pacu. I have a channel cat. I have a tiger shovel nose. We have an alligator gar. We have an iridescent. So all these fish are specific to problem fish for the rescues. And much like Ohio, we want to have at least one of these fish to showcase. Dude, people are jumping on me. I tried to explain to this girl that has a 15-inch gar. I said, we have a 27-inch gar, so we can take care of your 15-inch gar. They're not going to go in the same. People are like, we'll put him in the same cage. No, he's going to eat that one. So like our fish, like a lot like Ohio, they're graded on size, because if I put all the cats together, the biggest cat's going to be alive and everything else is going to be food.
Those channel cats, that's one that most people don't know about how big they actually get.
He's 16 inches sitting in front of me, and he's albino, so he's a nice species. The iridescent downstairs. So the lady was awesome. She had this fish for 20 years, and it was her baby. She had it in an adequate sized tank. She called me before it became a problem. But what was happening wasn't that he got too big for the tank, but he was hitting the lids on the top. So he had literally a knot on his head, with a cut across it. So I put him downstairs in the 500 pond, and problem solved. He can circle around, and that thing is eating flakes only. Ate flakes only for 20 years. He's healthy as can be. She had some gourmet flakes. I was like, awesome, but I was like, funny. I was like, if you would have fed this fish, traditionally what people would have power fed him, he would have been this size, because he's 24 inches long ago. I've seen people get them that size in, a year or two. You can tell that she cared about this fish. So
that's why I got the arowanas, because my boys like to power feed the fish, and they were bulking it up like it was ready to play linebacker for the Giants. It's like, slow down a little bit. You can make them nice and healthy. You don't have to overfeed them. And you don't have to have the temperature up so high, because the higher you got the temperature, the quicker they accelerate their life cycle too.
So my arrow was probably about 16, 17 inches. He decided that he wanted to take down one of the other fish, and it got stuck in him. He had swim bladder issues. I was like, the alligator gar I actually had to do gill surgery on it, and good luck, doing gill surgery on a 27-inch pissed off alligator gar. But
how do you even do that? I mean,
so you look at YouTube videos. There's no vets around that are going to be able to do it. My sister's a nurse, so I have scalpels and all the thingies. So really what you had to do was just where I got this guy from. He was in a 40-gallon tank. So the guy I rescued him from put him in a 125. The guy's awesome. 125, some guy out in Bath. I forgot his name, but he was great. He took this fish trying to help it, and immediately looked for somebody with a larger facility that could take care of it. And he got a hold of me, met me in the middle, just wanted a better place for the fish. I got him here. And like I said, he had the gill curl. So gar will go up and suck the air. So it was not like he was going to not be able to breathe, but his quality of life definitely isn't what it should have been. And I'm thinking a lot of that is from having to back up to, move around in the tank that he was originally in. So all I did was shave the soft tissue off, snip it off a little bit, and then you have these whetstones. He didn't seem to care at all when we put him back in there. Immediately, he was like 100% happier. I mean, of course, there's a couple of days of the whole medicating and everything, but it's who knows? YouTube videos.
Those are such they're just such an amazing looking and like it's a prehistoric fish. It's like the arowana, those things have been around for millions and millions of years the same way they are. I had a gar. Unfortunately, he bounced through the top. This is about 3-4 years ago. I guess somebody scared him, and he just jumped right through the top. I found him on the floor. I was now I put the big 10-pound metal weights on top of the tanks because the arowana, with arowanas, I'm always afraid when I open the top, first thing he's going to do is jump out. And one of mine, the middle brace in the bigger tanks, they're always banging themselves on that stupid thing too, because they just the way they dart.
And one thing that we should mention to anybody that watches this video is if you have gars, remember they will go up to the top to get air. Leave them space at the top so they can get up there to get the air, because otherwise they're going to be hitting their head trying to go up that air at the top.
That's even with the arowanas or something like that likes to go up on the top. You do want to have it down a little bit, just so he doesn't have that solid water, so he can because he's going to smash his head really hard on the top.
So I had the same thing happen as you did with this 27-inch. I had him here less than 36 hours. I put him in the largest tank I had at the time to put him in that he wasn't going to eat anything was my 125, and he was already in one. So I put him for quarantine in there. That first night I was asleep, and I could tell he must have put his snout out in between the glass and the lid first and then shot himself out, because otherwise he was hitting the glass. But he thud on the floor in the middle of the night, woke me up, and good luck when you wake up in like 2 to 3 seconds trying to grab a 27-inch gar with like huge fangs and get him back in the lid of the tank. We did it, and he was back in there. There was a slime coat like print of him on my floor. I'm like, thank God I fell asleep down here. My wife was upstairs.
I don't understand how they can get out of some of the spots they get out of. They have to time it and aim it perfectly to jump through these. I'm like, how the heck did he get out of this hole? It's not. He must have did it exactly perfectly to get through the hole,
absolutely,
like a hula hoop or something. Because I don't understand how they do it.
So I'll tell you,
no way.
Another factual thing that I've learned through being a scientist, I keep a ledger of different things that happen and, different types of species. So I had a 32-inch tiger shovel-nose hybrid, red-tail hybrid. And this fish, if you threw food in there and put your hand in there, he would swim back and forth and let you pet him. And he would not eat that food you put in there, no matter what it was. He loved salami. He knew the shape of it even. That's how I found that out, but he loves salami. Anyway, so you'd throw the food in there, and he wanted to be pet. He wanted physical attention from a human being before he would go eat. So you tell me that animal's stupid. It's choosing to do that. Animal instinct, first thing, is going for food. This flower horn I have behind me, I could put my finger in there, and he's trying to eat it because he's hungry. It doesn't matter how many times a day I feed him. He always wants food. But this fish chose not to.
My puffer fish are like that. I have one at work and one at home. 2 Stars and Stripes puffers.
Nice.
Those things, they know when you come in the room. They know exactly what you're doing. They follow you. There's almost people that say they're stupid. That's just an excuse to be a poor fish keeper.
Absolutely.
That's the way you can say I don't care about this animal because it's dumb. That's something people do.
How about not having substrate? You're just lazy. Come on, seriously. Tired of hearing about that. If you have the right kind of fish, but come on. And I can understand, for instance, in a rescue situation. So there's a reptile rescue, and they're like telling me about, the substrate for a tortoise. And I'm like, but you don't even have substrate. I'm like, the substrate I'm looking at is for a specific type of tortoise. And they were mad because I wouldn't buy the substrate before I rescued the tortoise. And I said, but I don't know if you have the tortoise that I want to rescue. So I don't know if it's a redfoot where it's going to need to be more tropical, or a Sakota where it's going to need to be more desert-like. And I'm like, so I clearly know what's going on, and you don't. And you're the one that's the tortoise rescue. Come on. When I watched your videos, that's why I like the one about Patco. I was like, yeah, me and this guy are going to get along.
There's so much. I don't understand. There's so much just not like nonsense like that. Like they, come on, you should know. You should, and even if they don't know, they should have went in the back room and Googled it real quick, and it came out like they. That's one thing I love about my local fish store. If he doesn't know, he looks it right up in front of me, and we learn
Yeah.
together. He doesn't make something up or try to make himself see. No, he's just here. This is what I'm gonna do. As far as substrate, the only tanks I have two tanks without substrate, but those are hospital tanks.
Right.
It's
Well,
basically
again, that's totally why you would do that.
quarantine. Yeah,
Having
that's
substrate in
all.
there makes no sense at all because you're just going to be killing the bacteria anyways. But if you're again, this lady's telling me about having substrate. She doesn't have any substrate. She's had a tortoise for 10 years. So 10 years, this thing that has been at a rescue with no substrate. I'm like, well, lady, he's there. So I'm like, I understand you're trying to do good, but you're doing it in like a fanatical kind of way. So you're actually like almost hurting the animals you're trying to help. So with all this craziness that we have going on here, it dawned on me that it would be way easier to just clean out 3 giant fish tanks. I'm a lot like Big Rich. I like the cichlids. I would love to have that nice cichlid tank where everybody comes over and sees you, and it's
Yeah, that is nice.
Absolutely.
That is nice.
I was like, what if we rescued these fish and then used their waste to grow vegetables? So I want to do aquaponics, but I don't like the taste of tilapia. So I'm not growing tilapia, and tilapia are filthy fish.
It's not bad with a little lemon and garlic.
Yeah, but I mean, so around here, I grew up in the Finger Lakes. So if you're going to eat real fish, you want bluegill or something. So I got a hold of the DEC. I found out about permits and such, so I applied for anything that I would need, and I talked to the head of the DEC Fish Hatcheries Department just to confirm everything on my end, because I don't care about anybody else and what their perception is, but I do care about what the DEC thinks, because they will take all of your things. So I talked to this guy
and fine you.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't forget, you're in New York. You're getting fined for everything. Right?
So I have all the permits and everything. I'm good to have indigenous species and be able to showcase them and study them. So with the system I have putting in, it's like 3,500 gallons. It starts with a 575 gallon round, like farm feeder water thing. I got from a guy that actually has his own koi farm. So it's 5 feet tall, 6 feet across, and in the bottom of it, it's kind of bowed. There's where your pipes can go underneath it. So that is going to be my biofilter. So, that whole like 100 bio balls per 1,000 gallons, we ain't going to have to worry about any of that.
Yeah.
So I'm a big designer. Before I'm going to do something, for instance, the design of this whole thing that I'm doing, I had a piece of plastic and I drew the scale of my garage on it. And then I started cutting out pieces of plastic the size of the tanks. And then I moved them around on this. So instead of drawing the same thing with, a pencil 85 times trying to draw the scale, I could just move these pieces of plastic around, almost like a little puzzle for a kid. But
color forms. We had color forms. Remember those when you were a kid? You'd stick Scooby-Doo and Shaggy all over the place? Yeah.
But this allowed me to put everything in there and then be like, okay, so I want to grow plants here too. What's going to happen? What are problems that are going to happen here? This whole idea sucks. And I wipe everything off, even down to having little lights, the electric lines. So once I solidified things like the electric lines, I drew those in with marker on the original. So now I have that, and then I have my tanks, which can come off, but you see where all the fittings, all the pipes are running, so now I have a clean flow for tours to go around. My tanks are facing the way, so sunlight isn't going to directly hit the windows. So I got to worry about algae and stuff, but behind my tanks where it's just the plywood, I can actually have plants growing on the floor hydroponically, dumping the water into there and cycling into the system. So
that is becoming really popular. A lot of people are doing the hydroponics. A lot of people are just doing the little floating cups on top, and they're just plants grow amazing. I take my used water and I feed my tomato plants with it. And those things, it's like steroids.
So I did mine last year just hydroponically, tomatoes outside. And I did a 3-bucket system, and I produced more tomatoes in that 3-bucket outdoor hydroponic system than the rest of my garden did.
Yeah, it's amazing. If you pump a little CO2 into it, then those things get 12 feet tall.
Absolutely. So after my biofilter, I got the 1,200 gallon tank that I'm building. It's 1,196 gallons, I think. So it's 5 feet tall, 8 foot long, 4 foot wide. I drill when I cut the hole for the main. There's 2 viewing panels. One's 4 foot by 2 foot, and then the other one's 2 foot by 2 foot.
What are you building out of?
So everything that we do here, I try to get for free or salvage. So I bought the base of it is I bought the like inch thick plywood, and then the main 2x4s, and then 4x6s. Everything else on it so far has been salvaged. All the 2x4s and everything else were from an old deck that were pressure treated. Or the best that got me was I had the base done and I had a lot of my supplies done. Of course, I bought the acrylic pieces. I bought the new pumps, and I bought a 3,000 watt spa heater.
The acrylic pieces aren't cheap either for that thick clear acrylic.
274 for the 8 or the 4 foot by 2 foot, and then like 100 and something. I have a friend, Connie, who's our treasurer. Actually, she paid for those for me.
Nice.
Yeah. So I got into the pandemic. Now wood's through the roof, and what am I gonna do? So I got all these materials.
Too. Clear plastic, there's a shortage on it because I needed some for some signs I was doing. I couldn't get clear plastic for a little while because everybody was using it for their things. And then thicker pieces. I actually have a 4x8, a 3/4 inch cleared, like right across the room from me right now. Unfortunately, I need it for a sign. I look at my boss and go, come on, let me make a tank out of this.
Yeah, right. So I got all that stuff, and then I look at it in the Facebook Marketplace, which I love for getting free stuff. A bunch of the pressure treated lumber that I got from a guy that had taken down his deck, and then I see this school flooring. It's 16 foot by 4 foot chunks of school basketball flooring. It's 2 half-inch sheets or quarter-inch sheets of plywood opposite each other, then with a half-inch of maple on top of it. Plus, it's sealed with all the plastic stuff and the poly that goes on top of that. So I'm not going to use the epoxy on the inside. I'm going to I have a vinyl road sign, one of those giant like advertisement signs, which is thick mill vinyl. So I'm going to use a spray glue to glue that on the inside so I can cut all my corners, seal everything nice on top of the wood that's already sealed with all that other stuff. And then I'm going to put in my IBC pond liner. And then on the inside around where the acrylic is, where everything meets, I'm just using that plastic decking. I'm going to use that as a frame around that just to suck everything together nice, and it won't rot away. A little bit of silicone. Because my biggest thing was making this not only huge, but not look trashy. So the leftover pieces that I had from this, once I framed it out, I added to the spaces where the seams were. So where the seams are, there's actually 2 inches thick of wood there to help insulate. And then again, I got a 3,000 watt heater. So it's mainly this one that we want to be at the 80 degrees to keep all the big, catfish and everything in. So that will flow then into 8 foot pool that's 24, 30 inches deep, 8 foot across diameter. It's 625 gallons. So that next one is going to be my koi, and then like the iridescent shark, because that lady was adamant, do not put my fish in a predator pond. And I said, no problem. He's not going to eat the koi, and the koi ain't going to eat him. So, he's going to go in with the koi. There's a few other, we'll probably have some cichlids and stuff in there, a few things that are a little bit more hardy. And then in the last tank, I want 2 trout, 10 largemouth bass, and then, a few perch and a few bluegill, and have indigenous species. So that way, when people are coming through with classes, we can talk about how the koi are being released into Lake Ontario, and now goldfish are in Lake Ontario. We can talk about how these invasive catfish that people are releasing to catch in Florida ruin the habitat for natural animals, because the way catfish feed and the koi is they suck up the dirt, which ruins not only the plants but all the habitat for indigenous species. So if you're releasing goldfish and koi, they should just drown you in the lake and let you be fish food, because you're tearing up our natural, not only is this the largest amount of fresh water anywhere, like some of the best fishing in the world, and you can catch these fish and actually eat them.
The armored catfish in Florida, the ones that will actually cross the street to get into the other side of the stream. It's like, whoa. And they're huge. They have, but then they have the iguana problem down there. You see the videos, there's arowana, just beautiful arowana swimming in the little canals, like that run along the roads there. It's amazing. And but yeah, it does. They're just bullies. Like a koi is gonna. He's not gonna care. He's gonna take all the food he can.
Yeah,
he's not gonna leave any for anybody else.
Nope.
And those things get huge too.
Oh yeah. So my setting is like, again, I'm not really into the koi. So a few little pretty koi, swimming around doing their thing, but I'm really interested in the indigenous species pond, because that'll show the difference. And, this is where this needs to be in the wild, and this is where this needs to be. I also, from my degree going to FLCC and Empire State, have some connections with individuals in the forestry department, DC. So I have a DC officer that I'm looking at talking to try to not necessarily like back us, but, come in, do a tour, let us know what he thinks, make sure that he thinks that we're doing everything in a humane way. Because I'll be honest, I don't care what Joe Schmo on the internet thinks. When a DEC officer is in charge of fish and wildlife, and soon I'll have a fish and wildlife management degree, I'm going with him again, because what that Joe Schmo thinks about what he's doing does not matter. People think a 55-gallon tank's fine for an Oscar. Sure, it is for 2 months, but then, we're out of that.
Well, that's the double.
Marijuana is the same.
Look, if you have a 55 and you put an Oscar in it, you put an arrow on it, but it's small.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you don't have a 300 sitting over there that he's eventually going to go into. So before you trash the person saying it's too, I try to buy them small and grow them out, and I move tanks as they go.
That's the fun of it, really.
To me, I love that, having a fish for 4 or 5 years, watching them grow, moving them to 2-3 different tanks, and then eventually just you rehome, you find somebody and you give it to them, because they're going to enjoy it too. Sometimes I'll go out, I'll get a whole bunch of fish, I'll grow them for a year, and then I'll give them away to somebody so I can put something else into the tank. Absolutely. And let them have it. Yeah, there's so much you can share with this hobby. Like, I like to do, my daughters are teenagers, so any of their friends or anything like that are into fish or just anybody, but especially the younger people. Yep. They want to do, like I had the chameleon I was telling you about, just the regular chameleon, but I had so much going on and it was in the basement, and I figured I could give it a better life if I give it to somebody where that's their only pet. And so I gave it to this kid, and he just loves it. He upgraded its habitat. He got the real big one, and it just works out good. And then you got somebody that 20 years from now is going to do the same thing. Hopefully, do it back to somebody else. That's the thing. There's all these negative people can, just go away. Just go away, because we're scaring away the new people. It's like saltwater. The people who do saltwater try to intimidate the freshwater people, like, it's so hard. It's so hard. Listen, corals and reef tanks, that's science. That's science. They have hard corals, soft corals, which fish go. That's science. But if you just have live rock and some saltwater fish in there, it's not that much. It's not, it's not brain surgery. It's not that difficult.
I had zero idea what I was doing with salt. I watched a few videos. I went out and I got clownfish, and I'll tell you, the clownfish are definitely the what do I want to say? I don't know. They're the tank fish of the saltwater world. They could not that they could live in soup, but like they can handle a little bit of ignorance on your part. I knew what they needed and everything, but as far as taking care of the salt, that was new to me, how the skimmer worked. And so it gave me a lot of research. So I bought a 30 nano. So if I'm going to run a fish rescue, I should at least know about the salt. So I have, I rescued a bunch of figure 8 puffers from somebody who knew how to take care of them, had them in salinated water. And he had a nice mono. So he was like, they'll kill everything that you put in there though. And I put in actually my puffer with them. All 3 puffers in the mono live happily ever after. You can tell the difference because mine has a single chin and those have double chins. But, and this guy, I don't know, this guy had these and he was doing right. But his perception to keep them alone was that they're going to be aggressive towards other fish. I mean, I put them in a tank the same size that he did and no problem. Sometimes it's just how you're dealing, how much you're feeding, your water quality. I don't know what the difference is for me, but he said anytime he put anything in there, they just killed it. I'm like, oh,
my experience, that's the reason I got into saltwater, is because I wanted a certain puppers. They were
puppers are awesome.
At that point, I didn't realize how many freshwater puppers there really are.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of freshwater puppers. But I got to be honest, the Stars and Stripes puppers are vicious. They get to a point and they are vicious. I can't have anything in with the 2 I have. I can't. Yeah. One of them bit my finger. It took me 3 months to heal from it.
Wow.
They get beautiful fish though. It's one of my favorite fish. It's my favorite saltwater fish. It's such a beautiful, and it's got so much personality. But he was living with the clown. He was living with a Niger trigger. He was living with the rat. Nope. Eventually, he just killed everybody, and it's not from lack of eating. It's just
this guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The flower horn. Yeah, I have a little baby flower horn I'm trying to grow out. And,
when we bought,
by himself.
When I bought him, he was jet black, and he had no hump on his head. And I figured out what had happened when I called the person back later to discuss, a little bit about where he came from. And he was a breeding project they did, and he was in a tank with another male. So he was hiding. He was trying to look like a female. He didn't want to be in that situation to where he was going to get attacked. As soon as I put him in his own tank, within 24 hours, he started to have a crease across his forehead. His hump started to come out, and all the rest of his colors came out because they told me he was a red dragon. And I looked up red dragons, and I'm like, that's not even the same fish. Within 24 hours, though, bam, I was like, oh, I think that might be, actually. It was funny to see how quick they changed.
Do you do the thing with the mirror? I see some people like to put a little mirror up against the tank, and for some reason, it's supposed to make the hump grow bigger. I'm not really sure if that works, but I think it's going to have the fish on edge. It's,
Yeah, I mean, he goes instantly crazy anytime I'm in the room. And like I said, anytime you come in the room, he wants food. So I have a 50 or 5-gallon bucket that I just keep the pellets in. And then they get bloodworms and all their tilapia and stuff. But I just leave that in the living room because it's easy enough to just grab pellets when you're walking through and toss it to them. Because some of these guys, they're big and chunky. I understand. I want a snack in the middle of the day too. But some of them, like him, he would eat himself out of house and home. Same thing with my carpet python that I have, 7 foot. He's 7 foot because I feed him sporadically like he would get in the wild. His father was actually a wild python. He's caught from the wild. So he has really good markings, and he's very much that spirited wild. Like when I see snakes that have been captive bred for a long time, they're a lot more docile. But carpet pythons are super aggressive when they're little. So I went through the biting phase and bleeding phase, and now I might get bit once a year, but it's always my fault. I'll try to take him out without using a snake hook, and he tags me. And again, he's a snake. That's the only thing he can do. He's going to bite you.
I mean,
the 32-inch catfish I was telling you about that I could pet, he nipped me in the arm the one time, man, because he wanted food. And it left this round, it almost looked like a bruise because all the grizzle tore the skin a little bit. Funny as could be, though, I was like, my wife's like, what's that? I'm like, it's a hickey from the giant catfish in the basement. He just tagged me, and he got some chunkage on my arm too. So, I definitely knew I got bit. You'd be surprised how bad that hurt.
I'll admit, sometimes there's certain tanks you put your hand in, and even though it's just bumping on me, I do jump a little bit. It's like, oh,
that gar.
Yeah.
27-inch gar. So he's going in the big tank. Hence, 2 reasons why I needed a pool ladder. Number 1, I got the acrylic in. So now that I'm in there and I'm going to start sealing, I started thinking, and I got a fan in there, but I started thinking about the fume aspect. And if I need to get out of here quick, flopping over the top of this ain't down to the cement ain't going to be a good idea. So I better get something. A normal step ladder won't work because it has that center brace. So I talked to my old man, and he actually has a pool ladder. So I got that taken care of because I wanted to be able to get out. And same thing with that gar. If somebody gets mad and they start going crazy and they're like, I'm going to evacuate. Like, I ain't going to hang out in there. And I told my wife, I have a pair of jean shorts that are nice and tight specifically for that journey. You don't want anything dangling around when, you're going swimming with a 27-inch gar.
When I see Josh from OFR go in with the giant gar and those things with just like shorts on, I'm like, no, you got a lot. You're a lot braver than I am.
I've seen the one video, even where Big Rich was like, that's the one I worry about, and he's pointing to one of the alligator gars. And same for me. I mean, they're awesome fish, but if I was going to be bit by anybody, it would be the gars that I would not want to be bit by.
Their mouth is designed to just tear you up.
Absolutely.
The way it comes, it's almost like an alligator.
Absolutely. They call it that for a reason. And I got the Florida gar. Teeth. And the Florida gar, I mean, he's got the needle points, but, a bite from him wouldn't be nothing compared to this other guy, because he's going to get it on both sides with a nice distance, because he's probably got a 2-inch spread on his beak.
Is he going to try to roll like an alligator? Is he going to try to do that? Do they try to spin when they latch on?
Here's my thing is he's not going to be able to do that if he grabs my skin. But if he tried to grab a finger or maybe another appendage, I could see him doing that. Like
it's the other appendage I worry about. There's no way I'm going into it just shorts on. I'm going to wear 5 pairs of underwear. I'm going to wear scuba bottoms.
I got a moray eel. I got a moray eel as well.
Oh, yeah.
And, same thing with him. Yeah, and he's little, but still, I don't trust. He's 16 inches, but I don't trust him further than I could throw him.
They can give a nice bite too. That's what they're designed for, and they're used to just waiting there to shoot at something. God forbid it's you.
So aggressive though, you think that's funny? So having the ducks and the chickens and the turkeys outside as well. We have Jurassic Park. So
let's get into that. So you have other animals. Nobody's going to know. You have other animals. You're not just fish. Yeah. We can see the reptile.
So I'll start inside. So inside we have Look at
that guy.
This is Taco. Taco's a veiled chameleon. We went with them. They do have kind of a short life expectancy, but they get pretty big, up to about 2 feet. He's a decent sized adult male. He's got nice colors.
Yeah, nice colors.
When he first comes out, he's a little bit ornery.
Looks like Jurassic Park, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
With the look at.
When I set him on the floor and you throw a cricket or something down, it absolutely is Jurassic Park. So I liked the lizards, so I bought this guy. We have a bearded dragon. We also have a hedgehog, Poppy. She's upstairs. She's in my daughter's room. We have 2 red-eared slider turtles that we rescued. Outside, we have... Oh, and I have the 7-foot jungle-faced carpet python. Outside, we have 2 emu. They'll get to be about 150 pounds apiece. The female will be bigger than the male.
Are you going to breed? Are they to breed?
So
baby emu.
So here's the thing. Our intention as a rescue, because as you see, we're not just a fish rescue. A lot of what we're doing is involving humans in the rescue, because humans are super predators. With fish and all the aquatic hobbies, and even in a lot of our lakes now, we're controlling the fish and what's going on there. So we need to involve humans in that aspect of it. So my idea is to help the fish and my other animals support themselves. I mean, people want to see and feed a giant 27-inch alligator gar. Well, once we're up and doing tours, you can do a tour for $1 or $2 a piece, to help feed for the animals, like a donation. But if you say want to do the feeding tour of the day, where we're feeding all the tilapia and everything like Big Rich and them do, we're going to do something like that where you can just kick in like, an extra couple bucks to be able to feed them, which helps us supplement the cost of feeding them. And you get to feed 27-inch alligator guys. And now
it's pretty much the same they do it in any of the other, if you want to call them the professional, the big aquariums or stuff like that, like the Maritime Center in Norwalk. You can get a regular tour, or you get the tour where you can touch the horseshoe crabs. You can,
and that's what we want. Is we want to give that intimate experience where you can actually hold this guy if you want to. Not everybody likes 7-foot jungle face carpet pythons. If you don't, he don't have to come out. But if you do really like snakes, you aren't going to see many like him. He's 23 years old. I got 4 kids. He's older than all of them but one. So I got college grads, and my snake's older than them. So the emu, we're not necessarily looking at breeding. Eggs, one egg that they produce, it's a dark green egg. It's probably about the size of a softball. You can make a whole omelet with one egg. They're mostly yolk, but eggs emptied to just make like little knickknack things with are 30 to 50 bucks online. If you have fertilized eggs, you can sell them for 50 and up. Chicks usually go for a couple $100. I have a connection to where I can get chicks for $135. Now, I'm more than happy to share that connection with people that can show me that they can take care of some emu. We do live in the city. I did have to take a lot into account to have these animals here. You need at least 120-foot run for them. Now, we have a nice area where our garage is, where the whole the rescue area is going to be. So there's a run that goes all the way around that and through around the front. And then there's a side yard area where we have a nice garden. So everything isn't gigantic, but, I went off the basis of what this guy was doing per acreage on his farm. So we're doing the same as the farm that's housing these emus. When I bought them, smart guy. So I came up with 2 intentions. Number one, if we couldn't keep them, can we bring them back to his farm? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And number 2, if I die, can my wife bring them back to the farm? Because these things can live 20 years. You got to take that into account. A lot of people don't think about that. This guy's 5 years. That catfish over there, 20, 25 years. Some of them even more.
Turtles.
120 years.
I went into a Chinese restaurant once when my kids were small, and they had 3 little yellow slider turtles in a cup for $8 each. It's 9 years later. I still got the 3 of them. I've just built up tanks, and then I finally built a topper for it to sit on top of the tank.
Yeah.
So I could fill the whole tank with water, and then they could climb out into the basking area on the top. But those things, when I got it, I was getting a little thing for my kids, and all of a sudden I read that they can last, and some fish can last 10 years or more too.
And you're just starting with those turtles. The Herman tortoise can get 120 years old. Sulcata 70, 80. There's some type of it's a musk or a map. I think it's a musk turtle. They like hundreds of years old. Hundreds. It's insane. A real prehistoric animal. That was before the Industrial Revolution. That's a quality pet right there. So the emus.
Who's the YouTube channel that's got the turtles like that? Is it Camp Keenan maybe? Where he's got the tortoises and the turtles running, and some of them are really like 100 years old, 80 years old. Yeah, older than me, and I thought I was old. What do you think of Brian Barczyk with his Reptarium?
So I'll be honest. No.
He opened up a place called the Reptarium, and he just has these big, awesome enclosures where he has people come in and do tours. He shows them every reptiles, snakes. And basically, it's the same kind of thing where he has people come in. It's in a strip mall, but then I think he added an addition onto it. But then the pandemic hit, messed everything up. He seems to be somebody he's got 3 million followers or something by now, and he's turned a lot of people on to the reptiles and to the snakes that normally were afraid of them, because a lot of people are afraid of until they actually can go in and actually see the animal live. You get a much more, you appreciate them much more, and that fear goes away when you realize it. Look, it's the same as a dog. Go mess with a dog the wrong way. Go mess with, I don't care how nice the dog is. Go do the wrong thing with a dog and he's going to bite you.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's your fault. Same thing with a reptile. If you, you know,
Well, in the
you should be able to
reptile,
handle
what
it.
defense does it have? The dog can bark. The dog's got a lot of different options. Again, most of these things like the fish, they got a mouth. The emu, for instance, with the emu, so ostriches can be mean, and I forgot the name of the other type of bird, but they're below the emu. So it's like ostrich, emu, and then these hares or whatever. So those ones are mean too. The emu are more like doofy dogs. Like they're pretty doofy. They're like kind of skittish a little bit like a deer. They're awesome to watch. They're absolutely adorable. The little weird things that they do, but they have the most pathetic like wings on the planet. Like these little, like literally the one. So my daughter ended up, we had a contest to name them. So their names are breadsticks and barbecue sauce.
Nice.
We had a contest. My daughter won. My wife wanted to name them Buffy and Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Okay.
Thank God, breadsticks and barbecue
Yeah.
sauce won.
Yeah.
So breadsticks though is good because his legs are super long and they look like breadsticks. But he's 2 weeks older, but he's maybe almost a foot taller than the female. She'll outgrow him eventually, but they kind of wander around and do their own thing. But when they take off, you ain't seen something run like these things can. Immediately you go to Jurassic Park in the beginning with those the dinosaurs that are running with it. Immediately Jurassic Park. So we just hooked up with the Rochester Public Market. There's a group called the Rochester Pickers. So once all the people are done with their food from the market, they give it to them and they go through it and they dispense it to local like food shelters. So they also have non-edible food that they leave that they get rid of to farms and such. So I went down there and I get a 55-gallon bucket or drum filled with vegetables, tomatoes, cucumbers, stuff that's just turning, not necessarily moldy, but just turning, and they love it, and it supplements some of the cost, and we're helping everybody be more sustainable by doing it.
If there's one positive that came out of the pandemic, it's the fact that a lot more people are doing things like that.
Yeah.
A lot more people. We're not wasting food like we used to quite as much. Then there's the co-ops where people can go and get fresh vegetables and fresh food, in neighborhoods where they couldn't before. I mean, there's so much smarter ways to do things. That's why really nothing should go to waste. Nothing should go to waste. At the very least, at the end, you make a compost pile out of it.
Absolutely. And that's why my business plan all along really is, if Thanos was a good person, is to be like Thanos. It's like I have a gauntlet with room for 5 different facets on it. And if my 501c3 can hit all 5 of those facets, I'm not just getting fish people. I'm getting poor people that need vegetables. Yeah. I'm getting people in my community. I'm getting reptile people. And then I'm just getting people that like to go to the zoo or want that, situation where they can hold a snake up close or, feed that gar, or just have nothing to do on a rainy day. It gives me a lot more options to get out there to a lot more people, because I'm not trying to do this to be famous. I'm trying to do this to help the animals. I'm not the easiest person to get along with. When it comes to kids, though, like, I'm getting right back to that little boy that's holding that bass I told you about. When the kids are around,
I just even doing a YouTube channel. I mean, you might hit that one person and then they never thought about it. Now all of a sudden they're interested in something.
You crush us. I mean, we might have like 30 followers on our YouTube right now, but my wife also does PR, and we're only doing our soft opening. What I wanted to see is, I know people need the vegetables. I know people will eat my eggs. At this point in time, we got people that won't buy store eggs anymore now because they've had our eggs. Because in store eggs, you got to think that farmer pops those eggs. He's got 30 days to get rid of them. Then the store has 30 days to put them on the shelf, and then they can sit there for 30 days. So you might get a 90-day-old egg, whereas mine might have a little bit of poop on it, but it was laid yesterday. And there's no contest in taste and color, because everything here is organic. We're 100% sustainable. If we can do it naturally, we're doing it naturally.
You can't compare when you go, like when I get to stop at the markets when they're open and you get the fresh fruit. The, an apple that actually tastes like an apple. It's not all mealy on the inside. Or
Yep.
it actually a watermelon. It tastes like a watermelon. Or chicken when you get fresh. It's not just farm raised chicken by real farmers.
Absolutely.
Not the alleged Purdue farm raised chickens.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. The taste is you cannot beat it. You can't beat it. That's why all of us should try to grow a little something. Cause look, I don't have a lot of room in the back. I got a homeowners association, but I sure as hell plant basil. I plant
Yeah.
tomatoes. I do that little bit I can, and if everybody did it, we could all trade back and forth with each other. Take that middleman right out of there. And then, like you said, there's a lot of people that don't have that. They don't. One thing they don't have access to is good fresh food.
Food desert. And I live in one. So hence why I'm doing what I'm doing. I have the
Mm-hmm.
ability to help those people. And so another thing that we're getting into here is we're going to consult, we're doing consultations with individuals on their own gardening. So I don't know if you're
Mm-hmm.
familiar with what's happened recently in New York, but cannabis has became legal.
Yes,
So
Connecticut is behind on that.
so I have a degree in environmental horticulture, even on the cannabis aspect. So part of our whole plan eventually is we want to be able to have kids come to our place here, but that doesn't mean that we can't consult New Yorkers on being able to have their own grow at home. Because whether you're
Well,
growing cannabis or tomatoes,
I
you're,
think
you're
I
using a
think we're
hydroponic
to
system.
I think we're to the point now where the whole reefer madness lunacy needs to go out the window.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, the amount of health benefits and the like with the CBD with the amount of benefits now. It's not like you're telling kids, "Hey, we're growing tobacco."
yeah.
Right? It's in 10 years from now, it's going to be well accepted that the benefits of that beat pharmaceutical products.
My
And I think
children
that's something kids need to learn. They need to
My
learn that.
my
Listen,
children
I
are
would
all
rather
college
my
degrees, and they'll all tell you the
nice
same thing. They will tell you that they would much rather have you smoke cannabis than smoke a cigarette any day.
or drink alcohol.
Same.
Or drink alcohol. Or to be honest, go and take some of the pharmaceutical medicines they give you. Okay, you can use CBD to calm down. Go take some Ritalin and tell me that's better for you.
Yeah, right.
And I mean, what's in there? I mean, look, nature put it
Methamphetamine.
here. Yeah, yeah, nature
That's
put it
what's in
here.
it.
The only reason it was frowned upon is because it bothered the cotton industry back in the day, and just not even take the whole pot part out of it. Hemp bricks, hemp rope, hemp just the products you can make from hemp alone is beyond, it's not plastics where you got to bury it and it comes back up 10 years later.
Yep.
I think that has to go away. That stigma really has to go away.
So part of what we want to do is in New York, people will be able to eventually grow their own 6 plants. It'll be first for medicinal patients, eventually for everybody. So
Hmm.
also, just like with your fish, I mean, back in the day, people got cannabis from Colombia, and who knows what was sprayed on that as far as pesticides and stuff. You
Hmm.
see all these people vaping stuff that's testing positive for pesticides. Like my whole thing is, I've came up with ways to grow tomatoes or whatever. Super simple. You can do it in an urban environment, and I want to be able to teach people to grow whatever it is. You want to grow tomatoes in it. You can grow
Yeah.
tomatoes and cannabis in the exact same thing right next to each other. So we want to be able to consult with people and help them, get their licenses, get what's going on. And we also, my wife is associated with some legislators in the area. That last night I actually gave my card to one. I don't want to name her or anything, but she's involved with, because that's their own thing. But
Yeah,
she's
yeah, no, no,
involved with
yeah, I know.
she's involved with the people that are making some of the rules. And I told her, I said, I can tell you that most of the people out there that think they know about this stuff don't. And I just graduated with a degree in this. I'm one of the most accredited individuals in New York State right now on cannabis. And I was like, I can tell you I'm a junkyard dog. Put me in a room with somebody that's anti-cannabis and I'll eat them alive with facts, because I'll tell you, you're right with the cotton industry, but one of the number one reasons today why cannabis is illegal is because it is used as a tool to discriminate people. 100%.
Well, yes, exactly. I agree with you.
Otherwise, white guys would be in jail. Plain and simple. It would be a 50-50 percentage. So part of what we want to do again is with that, when that's happening, because that's supposed to be able to add a lot of social equality, to these areas like us where we do have these food deserts. So, once areas like mine can start to be self-sufficient, for crime to stop, poverty needs to stop. If you're not poor, if these individuals that were growing illicit cannabis can now grow legal cannabis and have a job and pay taxes, most of them are probably going to be more than happy to. But if you make it legal and a bunch of white guys get to, rich white guys get to control the whole environment, you're going to displace a lot of individuals and you're going to create a lot of issues for your system to work properly. So I told him, I was like, coming from somebody who sees it every day, I live in a neighborhood where guys are making their living down the street doing this. You need to take some of this stuff into account and really know what's going on. So I want to help in both sides of the fence on that, help people, get out from under debt and stuff like that, doing something that's easy. And again, now if you like fish, involving the fish in it, the progression of that to help people is, we're in a situation in New York to where we can help people more than we ever have before, because trickle down hasn't worked. This could help things trickle up for once.
Listen, education and communication is the main thing. It's because the stigma that's put on, like you said, it's a stigma put on things, and it's just used. Everything is used against certain people at certain times. Everybody because I'm not. Look, I've worked since I'm 9 years old. I've never had anything easy. I've never, and it's actually a lot of it's just based on economics. Yeah. It's and people are stuck, and to have this is something where it's used as a nail. Yet I can go out and buy as much liquor as I want.
Yeah,
I can just buy liquor all day long.
There's a gentleman named Enslinger who was the drug czar for Nixon, and there's an alleged quote.
Didn't he make Elvis the drug czar once? Nixon?
There's an alleged quote that this guy did that was supposed to be off the record, and I think it was for Rolling Stones magazine, where he said, look, the war was going on, and we couldn't arrest hippies for boycotting the war. So what we decided to do is we decided to make heroin and cannabis a Schedule I drug, so that way we can invade their houses. We can control white people with cannabis, and we control the black community with heroin. And point blank, the guy's saying, he's like, were these things true? No, they weren't true at all. So, it's pretty funny that, you catch these guys with their pants down and really they know it's as much BS as we do. So why are we still here?
I'm waiting for Connecticut to get on the ball with this too. I don't know why we're right next door. I don't know why we're behind.
Now we are with Mass and us. It's just going to go. It's going to go. I was surprised it took us. It's usually California and us, or us then California. So I was surprised it took as long as we did. But when Rochester was having meetings specifically about the legalization, I went to some of the meetings, and originally they had no plan for the social equity aspect of it. So it's good that they didn't go legal when they did. So again, that's another facet added to my gauntlet of power, to be able to reach every facet of the community. We would love to eventually, get paid by YouTube or something, but that's like my daughter's dream and someday. And I was like, honey, that's not how we're going to be successful, but that's how we can reach a lot of people that want to come and, get the word out, come and visit us. We want people to come and visit.
It will definitely help. All you got to do, just video everything and throw it up there.
That's my worst is sometimes when you're trying to do stuff, I mean, it's easy to sit down, but when you're trying to build a 1,200-gallon tank, I'm like, I got to do stuff and then show you guys what I've been doing because, in the moment, like I can cut off my finger.
Perfect example. I got a 55-gallon off of Facebook Marketplace for $20, brand new, basically with all the filters. But in the old days, I would just bring it home, set it up. I'd be done in an hour or two. Get it in, but there's water in it, everything's running. But now, if you have to film every aspect of it and move it, it turns into a 4 or 5 hour thing.
Yep.
But the people want to see that. People just, especially with what you got going on there, all the variety. People are gonna love that.
That's why I just went trying to go with variety because I love the fish, I love the reptiles. My wife hates birds, so the fact that we have
birds freak me out.
Same with her. So the chickens were an easy sell because of the eggs, but we had originally 25 chickens, and that's what it permitted us for. We're upping this year to 30. But the original 25 we got 6 months in, they're about ready to give eggs, and a raccoon killed every one of them. Only ate one of them. Killed all of them and just only ate one. I was so mad. But hey, I wasn't prepared. It was a wild animal. I'm not hating on the wild animal. It was my dumb fault. So now, they're screened underneath all the dirt, and part of the emu thing is at 6 months, emus can kill a coyote. They can defend themselves, just like any other animal. They're not aggressive, but if you back them into the corner, they got 3 foot long legs.
We have coyotes here. Like I got a warning from the city and from my homeowners association. We have coyotes here in Stamford. That one actually took a small dog or a cat or something in the neighborhood. You guys have that up there too?
So there's a few places around us where there's really close to the city where there's wooded areas set aside. So the potential for that is definitely there. Coyotes, wild dogs. We definitely have the raccoon. The raccoon and skunks are crazy.
My guys were driving up East Main Street. That's US 1 going to I-95. And they hit a giant coyote that was running across the middle of the road. That's how much of an attitude. They're not afraid of people anymore around here.
No, not at all.
Either they're rabid and they don't know any better, or they have no fear of people, which is a little scary when you have a small dog or.
Oh yeah, well
or a kid.
We have a rescue. He's a Staffordshire Terrier. He again, this is where everything started, actually, was the rescuing of him. I wanted a bull breed dog. I looked around me. It's like $250 to rescue a dog around me. New York City, $50. I was like, I got $50 in gas and a $50 bill to go get my dog in New York City. I drove down there.
I have a Boston Terrier myself. Oh my God. I love that dog.
I drove down there. It was the only dog that didn't bark. Only dog in the kennel not barking at me.
My dog doesn't really bark like that either.
Oh, not when I got him home. I got him. We went to Burger King. I got him his Burger King escape burger. He was all good. And then from there, we've been going. But he has some weird quirks. We have Nerf guns. If you take the Nerf gun and cock it at all, like a real gun, he gets really aggressive upset, lighters and stuff. He's a really smart dog. He's a little bit arrogant, kind of. He's definitely more intelligent than he lets off. And I think whoever had him actually lived in the inner city and was kind of a gangster type individual.
Yeah, 100%. It makes so much sense.
Makes
so much sense.
He has nightmares like a little kid. I got to rub him on his side and tell him it's okay and wake him up because he's trying to fight in his sleep. I'm like, I'm his therapy person. I don't need a therapy dog. I'm the dog's therapy.
It just annoys me when people look how many people got dogs during the pandemic and now they're bringing them back because they have to go back to work. That gets me so aggravated.
Perfect time for me to be opening a fish rescue is what I was thinking.
Oh man,
like I said, I was like, Big Rich and Josh can't do everything. People got to get in and help. And I think that's why I like that site, is because everybody on there genuinely is, not only loves those guys and what they're doing, they helped me in some of the stuff that I'm doing and how I'm doing it. I want to focus on the larger fish. We want to focus on teaching people about right now we're not really adopting out fish. Unless you want Pacu, we got Pacu. You want Pacu, you call me. I got Pacu.
I got a 10-gallon.
Yeah. I was trying to tell a girl last night, she had a 15-inch alligator gar, and I was trying to tell her, I was like, yeah, we have a 27-inch alligator gar here, so we know how to take care of them. And immediately somebody was jumping on it. They're like, oh, I'm interested in that. I'm like, no, I wasn't trying to get rid of the 27-inch alligator gar. I was trying to explain to her that we definitely know how to take care of a gar. So it's funny how quick people are on it. And I tell you, again, I keep getting the rescues because all I do, I'm not offering you anything. I ain't paying for your animal. I will drive hours to pick up your animal and bring it here and give it a better life because you're willing to understand that you really care about your animal. And then people are like, nah. I had somebody telling me the other day that God was going to work it out for him. I'm like, but you just were trying to sell your fish. You were trying to sell your fish. I gave you a possible place to where not only you could put your fish, but you can come visit your fish. It's going to be here. Like you can come hang out. How awesome is that? My mom wanted to get a fish tank. I'm like, Mom, come over and visit. Like, don't get your own.
There's a really stubborn group in the hobby or whatever you want to call it that for some reason they're the same people that'll think they can charge what they paid for a tank they've had for 10 years. When they say, I'm going to rehome a fish, but then you go in there and they start, I need this much money, I need that much money. It's not, no, just look, if you're going to sell your fish, put it on that site and sell your fish. Don't say you're looking to rehome it and do the right thing for the fish when you just want to get paid for it.
That link that I sent you, it was exactly all who we are. I send the same link that I sent you to absolutely everybody else. And then I usually don't say anything more. They can choose to and they can watch our videos and they can choose to whether, we aren't as big as some of the other people out there. We're just starting. We don't have a lot of people that watch our videos don't subscribe. We are currently soliciting, rescues. By soliciting, all I'm doing is paying attention to people that say they need help. Give them the information and let them make their own decision. And people and they're choosing us. They're starting to choose us more and more. And again, how awesome is that? Where you can come see your fish. You can come see your fish.
It'll build up.
I was never sweating that because we're still in our soft opening. So I know that setting my big setup outside is worthwhile. So that was really doing our soft opening. So I've been in touch with the local law offices where they help low income families and such with, getting our 501c3 paperwork set up. We have all of our articles. We've had some board meetings and discussing the direction we want to go in, what we're doing. We have some local connections that we're making. And then some wonderful woman that rehomed 2 blood parrots to us, owned 3 pet stores actually, and she has a bunch of equipment that she's looking to donate to us, a fairly large amount of equipment. So that's going to help. And as you were saying, how you want, it's about involving younger people in the community. Part of what we were doing here is taking in those smaller tanks, like 10-gallon tanks and stuff. So we have those on hand to give to young people if they want to take it home, but they're low income. Maybe they don't have the money to afford the tank. And we have some convict cichlids here. So guess what? There's always some fish.